Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
Red and gold on the edge of the sky, feel the rumble, hear the battle cry. Out in Ames where the storms ignite, we don't back down, we rise and fight. Jack Tri-State's name, yeah, it echoes strong. A story of honor still marches on. Through the rain, through the pain, through the fire we roar, 'cause we were built to thrive in the eye of the storm. Feel the ground shake, hear the crowd roar. Cyclone power, can't take no more. Legends rise, this is our norm. We stand tall in the eye of the storm. There's a cyclone blowing on the outskirts tonight. Jack Tribe shakes when the team takes flight. Milton's rocking, hear the magical. We rise together, we'll never fall. Feel the magic you can't deny. Marcus Stars are taking off straight to the sky. Brick, big play, Kirby making history. When the moment gets tough, that's the cyclone way. Through the trenches, through the lane, through the heat, through the rain. When the storm comes rolling, we embrace the fight. 'Cause the cyclones strike when the time is right. Feel the cyclones strike when the time is right.
All right, welcome back to In the Side of the Storm, where we talk all things Cyclones. We are back for the summer edition of the show and live from the AKC Marketing Studio with Andrew Downs and sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company out of Osceola, Iowa, and our friend Dan Douglas with Greenberry Realty. I'm Dave Larson here with my Storm Team partner and Cyclone great, the legend himself, Marcus Pfizer. Good evening. How are you?
Doing well, Dave. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. You know, I miss our weekly chats and our weekly talks. So now we can, we were sitting here just before the show started. We got into a nice little discussion. I thought, let's save it for the show. So we're going to talk a little bit of NFL draft. No Brent tonight. Mr. Vintage will return, though. Just not able to make it for this evening.
Practice, he said.
Yeah, practice. He's, believe it or not, what is he, 7-on-7? Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's just spring time, so, as much as you can get in ahead of time is always better, so.
Well, we've had beautiful weather here, so they're outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think today was 80 degrees, and yesterday was pretty close to mid-70s.
Nice. Not 80 and mid-70s.
Yeah, well, 80 today. I think it was mid-70s yesterday, and I think it's mid-70s for the most part of the week, although we've got some rain coming our way.
Let me see. What is it? It's 84 right now.
Wait, here or there?
Here, 6:09 p.m.
See, we're rivaling you guys out there in the West.
It's 6:09 p.m.
All right, so football news just coming out earlier this week. Jack Sadowski, linebacker with Iowa State, has entered the transfer portal along with Isaiah Alston, who was just here for a season after transferring in from Army. And then we had two big boys up front, twins Wade and Brent Helton, who have elected to enter the transfer portal. The good news is the basketball transfer portal has closed, so we can put that to rest. Should not expect any defections after that has since closed. So, all right, let's move into our summer discussions, Marcus. First topic of the night, very important, one that we chatted a little bit about through the text chain today, but this one has an Iowa State angle to it, and a poll put out by The Athletic. It's an annual NBA survey poll. And they may have had this. I think this came out probably after you were playing. Maybe not. And they list most overrated, underrated. It's a poll. Looked like 90 active players responded, and so what? That means what? 90 out of 390, something like that. If you have 13,
400 plus,
okay.
450 on the roster, I think.
And surprisingly, the most overrated player was none other than our guy, Tyrese Halliburton. Halliburton. So Tyrese responded last night in typical Tyrese Halliburton way, though. So they had game 2 against the Bucks, against your Milwaukee Bucks, Marcus, with a double-double, 21 and 12. The Pacers went on to beat the Bucks to take a 2-0 lead in the series. Thoughts on this whole poll situation of anonymous players responding and Tyrese being named as the most overrated?
Well, I don't think he responded. I think that's just Tyrese and his game. And that's the thing. And, you know, as we talked about it in the text chain a little bit, like, no, he doesn't have the prettiest of the jump shot. You know, his game isn't the flashiest, but it's effective. It's effective and he gets it done.
And we're talking about a guy that represented the U.S. in the Olympics just this last year. Like, this is not a guy that doesn't deserve to be there. That took me by surprise.
Because, you know, a lot of people, like I said earlier, are fan biased. You know, everyone is not knocking down at during this time of you know, the year or whatever. They're not, you know, Indiana Pacers fans like they were of the old, you know, Reggie Miller and those guys. So, you know, you have other players that have moved around, different players, bigger market. Again, he's not going to be the flashy player. He's not going to, you know, do all the crazy crossovers and stuff. But like I said, you know, he will have 50 assists with 0 turnovers, you know, in a 2 or 3 game span that, you know, you don't see, which it could be more assists, but, you know, you got a lot of hockey assists that, you know, you don't see in the box scores. The things that he does is a lot you can't duplicate or replicate. And so for that fact, you know, a lot of people look at him and say, "Oh, why does this guy get all these accolades?" And I mean, he's been an all-star. He's been an all-star for a reason. You know, if you're effective at your job, you're winning ball games, you're in the playoffs. They're up 2-0 right now on my Bucks. You know, so it is what it is. Him being the most overrated player in the league is definitely something that I looked at in front of, and then by such a far amount. I mean, that's like, come on now.
Yeah, but you look at it. So out of 90, he got 14%, which is 13 respondents. Rudy Gobert was second place with 10%. So you're talking 9 respondents. So it's not a huge difference. And I have to wonder too, how did they come up with a list for you to choose? Did each player have to just handwrite a name, any name that they could? Or was it a pre-populated list of here's a guy from every team, choose one? I mean, LeBron James got a vote, for crying out loud, or a couple votes.
Yeah.
It looked like.
And I see Kyle Kuzma got way down there at 2.2%, or if you ask me. But anyways, yeah, I mean, of 90 players, I would assume that it probably was a pre-fed list. I don't know the total of the players that was on the list, but it's easier to, you know, check off one name and just go about. You know, I'm interested to see the amount of guards that were in there that voted, because, you know, players that you tend to not have good games against. And the one thing that I always hated, and not to call Tyrese's game unorthodox, but he does have a little, you know, unorthodox in there. When you play against players,
little hitch up on top, yeah.
When you play against players like that you can't do nothing against, can't stop them, that's a real irritant. You know, when I first came into the league and matching up against Elton Brand, and everybody knew Elton was going to go left shoulder, right hook. And it didn't matter how you could sit 2 players in front of him on that left shoulder. He was going to hit you with that left shoulder, and he had a long reach, and he's going to right hook you over the top and score it every time. So, you know, when you have that kind of irritant where you can't stop it, you know, like you said, there's a lot of envy and jealousy going in there. Then he makes the all-star teams. Then he, you know, get a humongous contract. Then he plays on the USA team. You know, it's a lot of that came within that.
Well, and we talk about his shot and him not being that flashy. I remember a shot from a couple weeks ago where he was coming down. It was the last second game winning shot, and it was along the left base.
Left wing,
Yeah, the
left wing,
left
left
wing
corner.
3 point, and he was
Hmm.
falling out, and he shot it and canned it.
Right, right. So
He has
it
no
doesn't
flash
matter.
to him.
It works. It works. However it works, it works. I mean, Kevin Martin was a guy who had a weird shot, but it worked. You know, Bill Cartwright shot it behind the backboard from the left,
Yeah.
the left side. As long as it worked, it worked.
All right. So of this list, I want you to. Who would you have selected?
Kyle Kuzma.
You would have selected Kyle Kuzma, and Kuzma on here was how far down was he?
Way down, 2.2. I think.
3.2. So he had what three respondents.
Right. I like Kyle. I don't think we needed him in Milwaukee. I like that Chris Middleton, that dynamic, him being there a lot better. I think once he got away from LA, it kind of gave him the, oh, they're sending me to a team I'm going to have, and then, that didn't work. He's just, for his talent, and I was a huge fan of his when he was at Utah. For his talent, his size, his height, his length, and all of that, I was, really, really big on him. But like now, it's like, come on, you got him on the list, and you with Tyrese, and you saying Tyrese is the most overrated player in the league. Come on now.
Was there a guy that not necessarily you played with, but in your era that had you been faced with a similar pull that Marcus Fizer would have said, yeah, that guy might be a little bit more overrated than others?
Well, it's hard to even look back that far. It's hard to even try to even think that, especially when I was playing.
Well, I know you're getting a little older, so you're.
No, I mean it's 25 years ago. It's hard to even think because so many players, so many guys. Not that I don't want to throw anybody on the bus. I just really can't think of someone.
That's okay. I won't. That was probably a little bit unfair to put you on the spot like that with some of your peers. So, are you tracking the NBA playoffs? I'm looking over to my right and kind of glancing at a couple of games that are going on. Have you been following the playoffs?
Yep, I've watched every game that I've been able to, even some of the overlapping ones. Yep.
Is there one matchup, and there is for me, but I'm curious for you, is there a matchup that you are enjoying more than the others, or one that you've been really following more closely?
The Denver Nuggets and the Clippers.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
That was my matchup that I've got. For you, what makes that series more intriguing?
Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook.
I can't believe that guy's still out there at 36, and he still has a lot of fire left in him.
He does. But just that, Kawhi. I mean, like I said, before
he looks like old Kawhi, doesn't he?
Once he sits down to get healthy, he gets healthy, and once he gets healthy, he's really, really scary. A lot of people have written off James Harden, which, he really had a phenomenal year this year too. I don't know if Kawhi planned it. He missed a lot of games throughout the entire season, but getting healthy is for this moment, this time right now, and I see them like sneaking past Denver. Denver has been up and down here of late. I don't know. Jamal Murray is just probably one I would have put on that list, but he's. I don't know if it's he had an ACL tear, but he's been healthy. I don't know if that's ailing them a little bit or whatever the case may be. Of course, they lost some key players of the championship team, defensive players that has hurt them a lot, hurt the team a lot. I don't know. I definitely understand firing the coach right before the playoffs started, but along with that, but that's what makes that series right there, right?
That makes that intriguing too, because you have on the Nuggets side. They just won the championship, 2 seasons ago, right?
Yeah.
You've got Nikola Jokic, who
two-time MVP.
That guy does it all. Of course, you got Murray, you got Michael Porter Jr. on that team. You got Russ, who is still slinging it at 36. And then they fire their head coach that just led them to the championship 2 years ago, replaced him. They only finished fourth, in the conference, but yet at 50 and 32, they tied. In theory, it was between them, the Lakers, and the Clippers,
Right.
identical records. So it's
Right.
not like they were that far out of it. It's not like
Yeah, I didn't
they're
get
sitting
it.
at 7th or 8th. I mean, they're still a really good team. That change so late in the season really took me by surprise. And then on the other side, you've got the Kawhi, but I've totally forgot Ben Simmons is playing for the Clippers now too.
Yeah.
And they have
Yeah.
freaking Jeff Van Gundy on the bench as an assistant coach. You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, and Ty Lue really does a good job in getting those guys together and getting the best out of them. Ben Simmons is a wild card, not as a loose cannon wild card. That guy is really talented. I don't know if there's something that's going on with him mentally with past injuries. He has had some back problems and stuff like that has stopped. But when he first came into the league, man, I thought he was going to erase everything Magic Johnson was. I mean, to be a 6'10" point guard, and he's a point guard. He guards point guards. Like, he's really athletic. He has a great wingspan, and he plays defense. And I think with everything him, coasting, trying to make sure but in the playoffs, he can really, on a team like that, he can really cause some damage because he can really pass that ball, see over the top, and he plays good defense. And the Clippers can be dangerous.
So I thought that first game, the Clippers lost. They
that was
looking
better than
really
the second
good.
one.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. Coming out of there, I see the Clippers I felt like they should have won both games, but
I mean, too.
hey, you just don't know. I mean, the Nuggets they're a really talented team.
Yeah, the Nuggets are still really talented. But I see the Clippers. I mean, they going back to L.A. They got 2 in L.A. It's going to be real tough. And if they go down, 3-1,
Yep.
it's going to be
All right.
it.
Let's I want to come back, take a break quick, hear from our sponsors, and then we will turn over and talk a little bit of the NFL draft.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. When energy meets precision, anything is possible.
I'm Carter Hawley, the Chief Energy Officer of the Iowa State Cyclones. I'm full of energy on and off the court, but nothing gives me more energy than helping families find their dream home. And that's where Green Beret Realty comes in. They're more than just realtors. They're a team dedicated to getting things right for you and your family, just like we get it right on the court. Sometimes it takes a team to get the call right. And when you're buying a home, you want a team that makes all the right calls. That is Green Beret Realty. And here's the best part. When you buy or sell a home through Dan at Green Beret Realty and mention this ad, he'll make a donation to the We Will Collective, helping student athletes like me thrive on and off the court.
Green Beret Realty, because getting the call right means everything.
All right, we're back to the side of the storm. Marcus, Dan was talking about home buying over the summer months. This is, with 80-degree weather, now's probably the time to start. If you're going to sell, now's the time, right?
My 80-degree weather, or you guys is 80-degree.
Our
Because
80-degree weather.
how long is it going to last?
It's going to last. It's April 23rd. I think we've seen the last of the 50-degree highs.
Well, absolutely. If you're gonna stay in the 70s and above around that time, it is absolutely the time to give Dan them a call and let them know that you're either selling or looking to buy.
That's right. It's probably the time of year to do it now. Get in early before the market starts to get flooded with either bad houses or people that wait until the last minute. So,
Or it gets too hot there in Iowa. You may get a couple of 110 degrees is out there.
well said. Well said. So, all right, the NFL draft is this weekend, and I am sporting my CeeDee Lamb alternate jersey here with the Cowboys. It is what it is, folks.
Does it say Cowboys on it?
It says a Cowboys somewhere. Well, that's a good question. I'm not saying where it.
Don't tell me you took it off.
No, it's Cowboys. So I am wearing it. I realize we talk Iowa State. I do have the Brock Purdy jerseys hanging in the closet, but in celebration of my hopes and prayers for the Cowboys to do something with their draft, I'm wearing it tonight for good luck starting tomorrow night. So Shedeur Sanders is a big name. I don't know if you saw, but his number, the Buffaloes, University of Colorado, retired his number and Travis Hunter's number. Hunter, I get, he won the Heisman. It's probably deserving of him. Maybe could have waited a little bit, a few years for that, but they decided to retire both numbers. Since that time, a news report, it was either last night or today, came out regarding Shedeur that a quote, unnamed longtime assistant coach had said that Sanders had the worst formal interview in this coach's life. He really sort of slammed Shedeur's demeanor, saying he's so entitled, he takes unnecessary sacks, he never plays on time, he has horrible body language, he blames teammates, but the biggest thing is he's not that good. I was like, what? Like, you can slam him for his dad, but you cannot slam the kid for what he's done on the field. I mean, you and I remember watching the football season the last couple of years. He had a horrible offensive line, yet still threw for 74% accuracy, had 4,300 plus yards with 37 touchdowns last season. Where do you think this is coming from? Do you think that there's that? And I'm not saying he's John Elway or one of those guys, but he seems to have, at least in my eyes, he seems to have some of the raw abilities that you want to see in a quarterback. He's broad, he's athletic, he has a gun for an arm. Where do you think this is coming from?
I think it's coming from a team that's farther down that wants him to slide to them.
So you think there's some gamesmanship going on?
I don't think it's gamesmanship. I think it's absolute sabotage in order to, possibly get something that they, if it's one of those teams, if he happens to slide past 3, which I'm hoping he does to 9 to my Saints. If he happens to do that, and then there's a team that trades up in the draft before, the landing place of the Saints, where a lot of people think if he falls past 3, he's going to go to, I would say it was probably that team. Because it happens all the time. I've literally seen players that you can go with, Eli Manning or Stevie Francis, franchise who didn't want to play for the Vancouver Grizzlies. And, teams said things about him and he says things about the teams, and the San Diego Chargers still drafted Eli, even though knowing that he wasn't going to go there. So there's a lot of things that happen during this time. It's really unfortunate and sad to see. There's always, it seems to be 1 or 2 kids that they tend to pick on to spin and throw some things out there. And again, that's why a lot of people are saying, well, put a name to it. Or why won't you it's a reason why they don't want to put a name to it. They don't want to name themselves because they're hoping for something, happens in the draft where he falls to them.
Well, I hope he falls to your team if the Cowboys can't get him. We talked a little bit before. The Cowboys don't draft until pick 12. I don't.
They got
see him.
Dak Prescott. What they need a quarterback
Well,
for?
that's just it. If I'm a Cowboy, if I'm drafting, I'm going offensive line and interior defensive line. You got to keep Dak upright, and injuries has been the problem. When he is healthy, he plays really well.
Mhm.
Now he hasn't gotten over the hump yet, but he is a superb player when he's healthy. When he's not healthy, the Cowboy offense just doesn't look the same. Serviceable, but not at the same caliber with Dak healthy.
Right.
So that's
Right.
what I'm doing. I'm going offensive line. I'm going interior defensive line.
Well, you always got to protect the quarterback when you have a great quarterback that can do some things, that can win some games and things of that nature. And I feel like if you put someone in front of Shador like that and give him the opportunity to be able to come into an organization, even if he doesn't start right away, there's a lot of sayings about, Pittsburgh might be the team that do some things if Aaron Rodgers decides to, not be interested in football, but decide that he wants to play football this year, and they're able to sign him. Then I hear a lot of talks about them being ones that could move up to get Shador where they don't have to play him extremely early in his career. But it's always a hit and miss with these things. We thought Trey Lance and a couple of those guys were going to be in the situation to be able to lead a franchise by now. And at any rate, it could happen later on in their career. Geno Smith, a lot of people wrote Geno off, really early in his career. He had some struggle years in New York and some other places as a backup. He went to Seattle and had some good years, and now, he's here with the Raiders. So I'm very interested to see what, the Raiders do and with him as the quarterback and, see what this draft is going to be for these guys is going to be selected.
Well, you made reference about Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. It really feels like between them and even something that I think the 49ers are doing with Brock Purdy, we talked a month or so ago that it doesn't feel like they're going to sign Brock before the draft, which in retrospect, it now looks like maybe a deliberate move. Brock made it to, I think they had a mini camp or some sort of preseason activity that he did arrive and show up for. But it feels like, hey, let's hold off. Let's not make any big signing with Brock. Let's see how the draft plays out, and then go to make a serious run with a signing. That's what it feels like the Aaron Rodgers situation is with Pittsburgh too. Of, hey, let's see what we get with the draft, and then if we feel like we need to sign him, he's still there.
Yeah, and I've heard some talks about my Saints trying to get in the mix as well because I really don't know what's going on with Derek Carr. I don't. These being quiet about injuries is always weird, but I understand before the draft and everything how they're quiet and everything like that. But you never know.
Would you, as a fan,
absolutely.
want Aaron Rodgers? Okay,
absolutely. I get. Being a pro athlete, you see and you understand the dynamics of things a little bit better than others. One of the things I always say, people love to build up pro athletes just to tear them down. Just how everyone just hates LeBron James. Everybody, so many people just hate him. But if he said, "I'm going to come to your team," then you
want him.
things are so much different. So, a lot of people want the downfall of Aaron. Is he or LeBron in their 40s? The guys that was in their 20s, absolutely not. But still, he still has you. TB12, arguably, to me and a lot of other people, is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. His last couple of years in New England, you're starting to see. And then he said, "Well, I think I'm gonna get this thing one more shot." And Jameis Winston was in Tampa Bay, and then they revamped that whole team, and they got the lottery of having the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, and he went to Tampa Bay, and they won the Super Bowl. So anything can happen when you put the right team together, even if it's for that 1 year. So I know Aaron still got a a lot of people don't like him for whatever reason, the things that he believes in and stuff and all of that different stuff. But as a player, let the player play.
So we looked at, it looks like Cam Ward, who Iowa State played in the bowl game, is heading to Tennessee. And then from there, a lot of uncertainty, but Travis Hunter, who he claims or he says, I want to play both ways. I want to play offense. I want to play defense. Would be a first. We haven't seen that for a very long time. Abdul Carter with Penn State is next up on the docket. Then Ashton Genty with Boise State, who I would love to see him wearing Cowboy uniform. I love his size and his physicality, and he just got that burst of speed, and he won't last that long. But, and again, if I'm the Cowboys, I'm going offensive line, but he would be a nice welcome addition.
Yeah, he's definitely a talent. I think a lot with the whole running back position. I think that position was diminished so much on purpose in order to make the position cheaper. It's always great to have that bell cow. We got two guys, in Montgomery and Hall that does great for their teams, and we saw what Saquon Barkley and King Henry did in the season. Even to go far back is like people forget Zeke first couple years in the NFL. Like Zeke was hell to deal with, but they take a lot of contact, a lot of pounding and things like that, and it does wear their body down extremely early unless you 6'4", 250 like Derrick Henry or something like that. But the Gentry guy, he's very, very talented. The kid is going to come in and he's going to have a lot of great early on seasons, and some team is going to be really, really special with him.
Well, in his low center gravity, he's a little guy, but he's got that burst, and physically he's an Adonis. I don't know if you saw him at the
Saquon.
Oh,
Yeah.
phenomenal! Like I'm thinking, okay, if that kid takes a hit, the other guy's bouncing off pretty damn quick.
Yeah, and then they have that breakaway speed. Saquon tore his ACL one year, and then they thought, in New York that he's going to be done, and he worked his way back, and now he's a Super Bowl champion, and they're revitalizing that position, and it's always fun to see. We came up in the area watching, the running back. Everybody wanted to be the running back, and now you got some other positions that's glorified, but you still need that guy coming out of the backfield.
All right, so I posed this next question in the group chat. You may or may not answer it quite like I was hoping you might, but for the years, the Bucks and the Bengals were always known as disasters when it came to the top pick in the draft. They seemed to always have the worst record over the years and found themselves in the same position every year, and it never seemed to work out. Who for you would you say are the 5 or maybe 3 worst draft picks in your viewing era that you recall that you think that was horrible?
I remember the Ryan Leaf pick not being a totally good one, if I'm not mistaken. The quarterback.
Yep, that was 98. He went to the Chargers at number 2. Peyton Manning was number 1. That was the year that Peyton. Well, that would have been. See, you were in college then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was the big dilemma. Do you take Peyton or do you take Ryan Leaf? And do you take the cerebral guy or do you take the guy that seemed to physically have more tools? Do you take the guy that had the NFL pedigree with his dad playing in the NFL for so many years, or do you take the hot upcoming kid in Ryan Leaf?
Yeah, and I guess time told the story of that one. Then the next one
although Ryan Leaf, he, in fairness, he became a bit of a reclamation project in that he acknowledged some of the issues that he had outside of football that really sort of drove his behaviors at the professional ranks. And now just it's almost refreshing to hear him either talk about the game or talk about his history. Like he's so self-aware of what had happened. And he's really, it's kind of refreshing to see that the Ryan Leaf that he is today versus
Yeah,
what
this time
he had
goes
had
by
when he was
fast.
having some struggles. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
to see.
Another one that I would say a lot of people put on the top that I was disappointed about was Jamarcus Russell. Now you talk about what you talking about a guy who had the talent and the arm strength and can really spin that thing. Oh, Marcus can really, really throw that ball. And that's probably hindsight. You know, one guy, as we were saying, Ryan Leaf versus him. One guy figured out and understood, why, and the other one just continued to do the same things the same way that he did, and nothing really, happened with his career either.
Yeah,
There was
he
one
had that.
more.
The one with Jamarcus. I remember when he played at Florida State. LSU.
I'll let you.
He really had one good year, a great year, and you could see the gun that he had because he could stand flat-footed and throw a
Yeah,
70-yard bomb. He had the tools, but it felt almost like he had the number one pick came as a result of that one good season where he needed some more seasoning. He needed some more snaps, college snaps under his belt to really help him mold him to be a professional athlete.
yeah. It's unfortunate because, like we said, he was talented. He could throw the football, and he was low to get down. Also,
Mm-hmm.
there was another person that I was thinking kind of slipped my mind. Who would it be for you?
All right, so I took a list because I wasn't sure how you would answer, and I was going to have you choose between. So Jamarcus Russell is on there, Ryan Leaf.
Hmm.
How about Ricky Williams in '99? Remember, that's the draft that Mike Ditka was the head coach of the Saints. Your Saints, he drafted every single draft pick away to get the rights to Ricky Williams at number 5.
But Ricky had some good years. Ricky didn't not underperform. Ricky had some off the field things, and also, the whole marijuana use. Like Ricky is that person. Like you have a person like me that if I eat a .5 of a gummy, like I'm talking about fighter jet high. And you have some people who really can't function without, smoking marijuana all day, because it is, medicinal purposes and stuff like that. And he was one of those ones, especially at the time when is it still illegal in the NFL? Because it's not in the NBA anymore.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you. I
So
haven't been following
so
the drug laws when it comes to that kind of stuff. I hope the
yeah,
players
so
are,
he
but yeah.
so he was one of the guys who really needed it to function and things like that. And unfortunately, that was one of the things that was the downfall of his career. But Rick,
And then
that
he
guy
had a
right there,
nice,
like that's
yeah, he had a nice second half with the Dolphins. Then I remember
yeah.
he kind of bounced around. I think he went to the Canadian Football League for a year or two, and then came back
Then he went somewhere
to the
overseas
Dolphins.
for a couple of years, and then he showed back up and still had like that guy was. He was like an Adrian Peterson type of what does these guys do? But they come back and still able to play. But yeah, I mean I get that one also.
All right, so let me go a little bit back further. So Tony Mandarich, he was the number 2 pick in 89, 88, 89. It was the same draft that Troy Aikman was the number 1 pick. And so he went number 2. And of the top 5 picks in 89, all are in the NFL Hall of Fame except for Tony Mandarich. Come to find out, he really built his body based upon steroids, and once the injury bug hit, that was the end of his career.
Right.
That's
That
the
that
same
just
draft.
happens if you're about steroids.
Yeah. So that was the same draft with Aikman at number 1, Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas, and none other than the aforementioned Deion Sanders. Quite the draft. Top 5.
That's kind of like that 03 draft with LeBron and Carmelo, Darko Milicic, D Wade, that draft.
And LeBron's still playing. That's remarkable. I also had Trey Lance at number 3 by the 49ers. He really didn't do much. Again, what made that a bad pick in my eyes, he had 1 year. 1 year at North Dakota State. So shame on the 49ers, shame on any team for drafting a player that high that had just 1 year under their belt. I get it. You look at the kid and go, he's got the physical tools, but at some point you got to prove it. And I don't know if the NFL is a place to prove it.
But he's still so young, though, for me that I have hope for him. Just kind of like Geno. I think he's still so young, and he's learned from the mistake. Trust me, I was a fan of Geno's when he was at West Virginia, and he had those first couple of years. I kept, damn it, he just was just slinging it everywhere. But he really matured and got himself in position, and I had the same hopes for Trey.
Well said. The number 2 pick in that same draft was Zach Wilson, who went to the Jets. When Aaron Rodgers came in because Zach Wilson couldn't play, and then when Rodgers went out, Zach came back in and still couldn't play. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. I don't know what the Jets were thinking on Zach Wilson. I think he was one that probably had one good season at BYU, and I'm still perplexed. I have not seen anything out of him. And then I want to go back to the Wayback Machine before I get to this final one for Chris Shipley. But Art Schlichter was the number 4 pick by the Colts. Does that name ring a bell, or is that just beyond your recollection? Yeah. So he was actually on 3 Heisman Trophy ballots when he was a college player at Ohio State. And I think he was like 5th, 6th, 4th, 5th, and 6th. It wasn't in that order. But so he was high up, had some recognition in college, was drafted at number 4 by the Colts. He didn't play that much. And you want to know why, Marcus? He would gamble on his team as the backup quarterback for the Colts.
Did he gamble for them to win?
Don't think so.
I think if guys are allowed to gamble and they gamble to win, I'm okay with that. If you gamble against you to lose, then because over in Europe in the EuroLeague and things like that, players can gamble on the team.
You can gamble on your team,
and I've been.
Can you gamble?
I've been riding
only to win. Is it what can
whatever.
You gamble on? There's no restrictions.
No restrictions. We've been on the way to games, and guys, I got to stop and put my ticket in. And what you mean your ticket? So. But like I said, if it's the United States and sport gambling was legal for the players, as long as they gamble to win, then I'm fine with it. Because I'm trying to win. And when you spin it the other way, is when I think there's the gray area that you cross, the gray line that you're crossing.
I am so curious that. Did you place bets?
No, I don't know how to bet.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know what and people laugh like living in Vegas. I don't know what a money line is. I don't know what a plus minus is. I'm starting to learn a little bit because I never wanted anyone to accuse me of betting or anything like that. Like I don't know how to play craps in the casinos. Like the best I know how to do is to put my money in the slot machine and push a button. I promise you. Roulette, baccarat, all that stuff, no clue. I don't even know how to play chess. Like I just, anything like that, I just stayed away from.
And we hear stories back in the day with Michael Jordan and the Dream Team playing poker all night long.
Don't know how to play poker.
You don't know how to play. Okay.
Nope.
All right. And so this last one that I wrote down was for you, Chris Shipley, if you're out there listening. But Mitch Trubisky was.
That's who it was.
Yes.
That's who it was. That's who it was.
2017 to the Bears. I just want to remind Chris that the number 1 draft pick that year, Trubisky was number 2, but Myles Garrett was number 1. None other than Patrick Mahomes was number 10. So the Bears could have had Patrick Mahomes instead of Mitch Trubisky.
Well, but the dynamic of that is just so weird because, Pat turned into what Pat. You have to watch the talent. He's a pitcher, play baseball. He kind of got that sidearm thing. Mitchell was what 6'5", 6'7" or something I don't know if he's that tall, about 6'4". But I mean, the prototypical quarterback can see above the line and things like that. Pat just, is a gamer, is a player. No one assumed he would be as good as he's become. You would have hoped he would have been a good quarterback. Now he's right behind, depending on how many, Super Bowls he wins in the future going ahead. He's right behind Tom Brady in terms of what he's done and what he can ultimately do. So that was not a bad pick, I guess, at 2 from the intangibles that Mitch Trubisky had. But it just, for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. There's a lot of pressure at that position to win and do some things, especially in a city like Chicago. So it was unfortunate. What did he go after that? He went to Pittsburgh after that, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought he was going to have a chance to, revive his career.
Didn't he go with Buffalo? Didn't he finish with Buffalo last season as a backup to Josh Allen?
I don't know. I hadn't seen where he's been. But,
and it just goes to show, when we're looking at these draft picks, these guys that go up really high, it's not an exact science. There has to be a certain scheme that you have to fit into, and we don't have to look very far because we have Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, 262, the last pick in his draft, and he comes out and starts as a rookie and has been in that same role since, and he's on the cusp of perhaps a $50 million per year contract. So a lot can be said about, you got to draft the right player, but more importantly, it's got to be in the right scheme.
You got to be the right scheme, right fit. Everything has to fall in line in order to get the production that you ultimately can get out of a player. NBA champion Derek White, who plays for the Celtics. Yeah. Bounced around, was at a D2 school, then went to Colorado, then had some good years in San Antonio. Got to the Celtics and became an all-star and in the USA Olympic champion. So, if you get to the right scheme, right place, and things tend to work out for you, it can work out definitely in your favor.
So I'm a little bit older, and Chris Shipley is a lot older than us. But is there a draft that you remember or a trade that you remember in the NFL that from your childhood that still sticks with you, that you'll just kind of always remember as being something from your youth?
Trade?
Yeah, either a trade or a draft. Maybe there was a draft pick that was made for your Saints.
Well, the biggest thing for my Saints had to be Drew Brees coming, with the questions with his shoulder and everything from San Diego and him coming to the Saints. A lot of questions behind what he was going to ultimately be. And, if there's anything we hit a home run on, it definitely was him.
Yeah, because you guys were walking around with bags over your heads until he arrived, before he and Sean Payton arrived.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, there's still a few people that, chose to use the bags, here of recent, but absolutely. Coach Payton came down there, connected with that guy. And like I said, there was a lot of questions about that shoulder and the time that it could hang on and stuff like that. And he just completely shocked the world and, got us a championship, which, our neighbors probably about 3 or 4 hours down the road hadn't been able to do, right on I-20, a little bit, away from us. But
and if you would have told me that the Saints would have had a Super Bowl before the Cowboys in the last 30 years, hell, even the Bears have been in the Super Bowl before the Cowboys have been in the Super Bowl. This is embarrassing.
You would have never got me to believe that it would have been 30 years. Like 96, I was still in high school, with those teams in Dallas, America's team and those good teams, you just knew they're going to be 30 years later. We still waiting to get out of the championship round, the second round or the third round?
We can't.
Are they made it to the third?
We've not. I don't think we've even been in the NFC Championship game since.
No, which is what's the teams that they've had that's totally disappointing. Like it's been some years that I thought, like, man, okay, we got to deal with these Cowboys fans. They got a team. They got to whip. What lost at home?
There was a season where, and I can't remember the exact season. Romo was like in his second or third year. There was a field goal attempt made. Romo was a holder. Snap was made, and the ball went through Romo's hands. I mean, it's things like that that kills you.
It absolutely kills you, and it kills the season, kills the momentum. The next year. And one of the things is, like, you guys have so many good players. Guys tend to get bigger contracts and move on or different places and stuff like that. And it's like, man, I never saw this being 30 years in the making.
Well, and the thing is, so you guys have your Super Bowl, yet there's still some teams that are out there that need and want one, and none other than the Detroit Lions with Dave Montgomery as the running back, former Iowa State guy. We've got some comments in here that we've got Vito. See if I can get that posted there. So Vito asks, first-time listener who is himself a Lions fan, and he feels like that they should make a big move tomorrow. Something unexpected to make a run at the Super Bowl this year. I would be curious to know, Vito, what your thoughts are on exactly the moves that Detroit needs to make. They're there. I mean, they're in the NFC Championship title game. They're there. And I would love to play for Detroit.
They were a surprise. I really had high hopes, not only for Montgomery and the team, born and raised in Detroit. That will be my second team. I spent most of my childhood, life in Louisiana, so that's how I became more of a Saints fan. But always going to cheer for, the hometown team, and I really, really had hopes for them. Was really disappointed when they lost out of the playoffs. I thought that they were a strong team, but I also think that they've been able to identify, where they were lacking at, and this year coming into this next season, if they can just don't worry about winning so many games, win the ones that you have to. The Philadelphia Eagles did a great job at that this year, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I think Detroit, they just probably need to shore up the defensive line, as we've seen when Hutchinson went down. That the defense changed, so got to get him back healthy and maybe stabilize it with some sort of backup. But at this point, they've got a lot of talent on the offensive line or offensive side and defensive side. They're scary. They're a really good team.
Maybe the interior of the defense a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and they're losing Aaron Glenn, who's now coaching the Jets. So they've got some changes that are taking shape there on the defensive side. So my youth wasn't really a youth then. I was, I think, a senior in high school. Herschel Walker trade from the Cowboys in October of '89. So this is Troy Aikman's rookie season. The season that they went 1-15. They won one freaking game, and Aikman wasn't even the quarterback. He was hurt. Steve Walsh, another rookie quarterback, was the game-winning QB. And against the Redskins, I still remember all of this. I don't even need notes. I still remember all this. But Herschel was traded away for a ton of draft picks and 5 players, which at the end of the day, it really worked out. I don't think we as fans, we saw it, we're like, well, wait a minute. You just got Troy Aikman. You've got a capable backup. Why not stick with the running back who is this big, strong, fast guy out of Georgia that you've been waiting for, a player like this? What is going on? Well, we saw what was going on, because then that parlayed into Emmitt Smith and Darren Woodson and Russell Maryland, I think, on the defensive line with came out of Miami. I mean, ended up working out really well, but at the time,
right,
I was sick to my stomach.
Right. Yeah, I think the Dallas Mavericks are hoping that happens the exact same way, but then we're trading off Luka to LA. But Yeah, that was a big trade for sure. But to follow that act up with Emmitt Smith and Woodson and those guys, it worked out extremely well.
Yeah.
Extremely well.
I don't know that we'll see that again. I think GMs are much, much too smart to have that happen again, but you just never know. So everybody stay tuned. Tomorrow night could be rather interesting. We've heard rumors that maybe Breece Hall could be on the market. Again, the Bears have looked at Breece Hall, and I know Shipley would love to see. I wouldn't mind seeing him in a Bears uniform because they're a little bit closer to home, but at the same token, it's nice to watch the Jets because we've got Allen Lazard, who stayed with the Jets, re-signed a different deal, restructured his existing. I think he had like an $11 million a year contract. They restructured to $2 million to keep him. So wouldn't mind seeing those two still playing. And Will McDonald is still with the Jets as well. So we got 3 former Cyclones out there. And but yeah, it'd be fun to see Breece Hall in a Bears uniform.
Well, we'll see what happens. Just hope he lands at a place or in a place where he can continue to get, the run that he's had and the touches that he's had. So we'll see what happens.
All right, Marcus, it has been good. I miss you. We will get the schedule out for the next couple weeks. I think that we're off next week, and we'll come back in 2 weeks. I think that's when we start on Tuesday nights for the summer. We'll verify it with Brandon what schedules work like. I know I've got some travel I've got coming up too with vacation and cheer competition. So
that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, in Orlando, 90 degrees. I can't wait actually. So thanks everyone for joining us. It's been a privilege here during the summer sessions. Again, we go to an alternating every other week schedule. If you've not gone out and checked out Coach's Kolaches, go see Brent out in Urbandale. He'd love to see you. He's usually there very bright and early in the mornings, or you can also order from him online. And again, thank you to our sponsors, Revelton Distilling Company out of Osceola. There I've got my Revelton Mulberry Gin in front of me as usual. And then, of course, Dan Douglas with Greenberry Realty and our studio sponsor, Andrew Downs with AKC Marketing. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Good night, and go Cyclones.
Go Cyclone.
There's a cyclone brewing on the outskirts tonight. Jack Trice shakes when the scene takes flight. Hilton's rocking, hear the magic call. We rise together, we'll never fall. There's a cyclone brewing on the outskirts tonight. Jack Trice shakes when the team takes flight. Hilton's rocking, hear the magic call. We rise together, we'll never fall. CYCLONES, Cyclone Nation, we're the